Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to our afternoon input session for the academic year 2020-21 planning team. We're going to give it a couple of minutes for all of our participants to arrive in the webinar. So please be patient with us as everyone loads in, and we'll get started in just a minute. Thanks so much. It's like we're about halfway there. Thanks for your patience. Give it just one more minute. Looks like we have a few more coming. Thanks again for your patience. About at 350, we're expecting a few more than that. Okay. I think we'll go ahead and get started, and we'll allow folks to join us as we proceed with today's presentation. Thanks everyone again for being here. My name is John Leslie. I am the Senior Associate Vice Chancellor of Strategic Communication here on campus and a co-lead of the academic year 2020-21 planning team. I'm here with Ann Schmiesing, who is our Executive Vice Provost for Academic Resource Alignment. I am also here with Dan Jones, our Associate Vice Chancellor for Integrity, Safety, and Compliance, and we are the co-leads of the planning team. We're pleased to have with us Mary Kraus, Vice Provost for Undergraduate Education, Catherine Eggert, Senior Vice Provost for Academic Planning and Assessment, and Michelle Moses, Vice Provost for Faculty Affairs, who will assist us with some Q&A at the end of today's presentation. What we're going to do is walk through the initial recommendations for some feedback from you all. So I'm going to go ahead and start sharing my screen. You can keep your questions coming and we'll start to collect those. And we're also going to be offering additional opportunities for campus-wide feedback on these recommendations through our coronavirus website and See Boulder Today later this afternoon, which will include sharing these slides that you're about to see and providing a recording of one of our input sessions as well. So I'm going to start my screen share. Thanks for your patience. And My computer will cooperate. We'll get going. Let me try it this way. All right. Okay. Again, thank you all. We're going to start walking through, beginning with really looking at the charge of an answer to the question, why come back for fall? I think with an acknowledgement of the risks and uncertainties surrounding COVID-19, really keeping the idea of protecting our community's health and safety top of mind as foundational to any effort or recommendations we will be delivering. Our charge is to serve our students and really ensure our public mission by doing our best to create a safe, innovative, in-person, COVID-ready experience in fall 2020 and beyond. We think we can do this, and we are in this together with all of you. So thanks again for your engagement as we move forward. Guiding principles and planning timeline. We've been in a rapid prototyping, I would say, modality. We've done a lot of input gathering since late April when the team was formed. Our team includes all of the senior leaders across campus, as well as the leaders of our shared governance groups. And we've had a high volume of idea submission, in-person engagement as well, representing all of our campus stakeholder groups. I'll share a little bit more detail on that on the next slide. We've been developing different scenarios under academic instruction, campus experience, and resource alignment. We're going to share initial recommendations with you for your feedback today. We're really in that vetting of the recommendation stage of the process, which will lead to rapid revisions and iteration toward a report being delivered at the end of this week to the Chancellor and Provost and COO. And then again, that revision process moving toward an announcement and some implementation next steps. Quickly, our guiding principles, applying leadership, empathy, and care with that health and safety goal top of mind. Being innovative to meet our mission and maintain academic integrity, quality, and equity in the experience for fall and beyond. And being resilient together to deliver positive impact, given that we realize there's changing imperfect information and we need to be able to adjust rapidly to those conditions as we move forward toward fall and beyond. Again, we're in this together, we can do it. We realize that there will be some risk of transmission in any model we develop, but that by working together as a community, we think we can accomplish this. That will require us to meet some conditions, scaling capacity to meet guidelines. It's going to talk a lot about what we're recommending and limiting population density on campus and really trying to minimize the intermingling while having an in-person experience. Quite a challenge, and we'll talk about some ideas we have for that. And then training and committing to follow the health and safety protocols we're establishing. So trainings, the acknowledgement, compliance, and then flexibility and remote options for our vulnerable and at-risk populations to make sure we're providing the ability for folks to participate equitably. We really do hear you. Your ideas have helped inform our recommendations in just countless ways. We've had over 1,500 individual points of input through our coronavirus input form. We've had an incoming student survey that provided some additional input, and we've gotten direct suggestions from faculty, chairs, directors, lots of working sessions, focus groups, direct inquiries through social media and other channels, knowledge sharing with our sibling campuses and peer institution leaders, monitoring of what some other peer institutions are doing, and we got direct feedback by department and program from all faculty on the initial set of academic instruction and first year experience ideas, which we have iterated based on that feedback from earlier this week. So key areas of effort, each one plays a key role in our ability to return. One, a COVID-ready campus experience. Again, can't reiterate enough how important it is for us to do everything we can to minimize the health and safety risks to our community members. Two, academic instruction. So how do we enable a flexible, agile approach to delivering academic instruction in support of our mission and student success? And then obviously resources are a challenge. And so aligning our resources in support of those first two areas will be a critical component of our ability to efficiently deliver on the plan for fall. And we have some recommendations in that space as well. A couple of notes. You're going to see broad recommendations for the major components of those three areas I just mentioned. And really the purpose of this overview is to get directional feedback from you on those. We know there's a lot of questions about specifics, and we'll be collecting those and really leaning on those to help inform the logistical next steps for implementation. We will be asking 3 rapid questions after each section of the recommendations for that directional input from you. We've made a sincere effort to address everyone's input that we've received so far to the best of our ability, given our charge and the guiding principles I've shared. And then, yes, as I mentioned, those additional details, we are really benefiting from the questions we receive, the ideas we receive, and they are really going to help us realize and prioritize the specific details we need to prioritize and figure out as we get this thing rolling. So with that in mind, we're going to move to COVID-ready campus experience, and Dan is going to walk us through the high-level recommendations there. Dan?
Thank you so much, John. Before I begin, I do want to thank all the critical staff, CUPD, and health and wellness staff who have already been working on campus. Your dedication to our students while finding ways to maintain both the safety and social distancing really have been a model for the rest of the campus. Our goal for a COVID-ready campus is to minimize the health and safety risks to faculty, staff, students, and the rest of the community. We know to do that will require developing strong COVID-19 mitigation protocols, training, awareness, and individual accountability, and then the ability to adapt operations based on changing local conditions. That includes both on campus as well as in the Boulder area. All of our plans have to include the possibility of some fallback to remote options, even for a short period of time as necessary. John, next slide. So our first recommendation is to expand campus testing, notification, and isolation. It's important to know that the testing landscape really changes daily with new technologies being developed, tested, and approved. We have faculty and research experts working with campus health staff to develop our plans for the fall. That team's ultimate goal is to maximize COVID-19 testing capability with the objective of having a robust testing program for the campus. Recognizing that new methods are under development, our baseline goal is to have on-campus capability for testing of students, faculty, and staff with symptoms. A critical component of this recommendation that pairs with that is having rapid response teams for tracking, notification, and isolation of infected individuals. We're also developing monitoring to detect the emergence of an infection to help support those rapid response teams. That includes wellness and symptom reporting, ongoing sample testing, and then as new methods of testing are developed, we'll be able to expand testing to high-risk periods, roles, and locations. Next slide. It's critical that the campus set social distancing expectations for everyone. We all need to understand that we're all responsible for social distancing. The campus, to help with that, will provide masks and training. The training will be different for faculty and staff, as well as students. For faculty and staff, by the end of the month, we will have actually end of the week, a Skillsoft training to pair with as the campus is gradually returning research on campus. And then we're also developing a pre-arrival COVID-19 safety training that will be required for all returning students. Each unit on campus with a physical presence must complete a risk assessment and receive approval before personnel can return to campus. That's important for 2 reasons. One, we want to make sure that everyone returning has completed training. We also want to have the opportunity to evaluate if there are additional physical protections that need to be implemented based on the circumstance, specific circumstances for that unit. Next slide, John. So the campus will have a strong public health awareness program with additional accountability measures. This includes updating the code of conduct and related policies to ensure compliance with COVID-19 public health requirements, as well as possible sanctions for non-compliance. We're also working in collaboration with the campus and community stakeholder groups to launch an ongoing public health awareness campaign. This will include digital, social media, signage, as well as other ways to motivate the community to continue to work together to keep safe. I also want to mention a question that I'm sure is on everyone's mind given the headlines over the weekend regarding student parties. I think we're all frustrated and many are angered by stories about individuals who do disregard social distancing requirements, whether those are students partying on the Hill or perhaps local residents in parks and trailheads. Well, ultimately, this is a public health matter. I want you to know that CUPD is working with Boulder PD to address concerns. We know that Boulder PD is responding to reports and providing guidance to students. As far as we can tell, based on the fact that we're not receiving multiple complaints, students, in fact, are, we know that they're dispersing and they are following the guidance after they've been contacted. Looking forward to the fall, though, we know we need to continue to do more. We will be receiving lists of students who have received warnings from Boulder PD or CUPD. That will provide the campus the opportunity to follow up and reinforce awareness and accountability. We also know that this is an ongoing issue that we will need to manage jointly with the city, Boulder County Public Health, and we will continue to work over the summer to try different approaches. I also want you to know that based on discussions with campus experts, we do believe the steps we're taking to protect the campus will protect folks in light of this type of irresponsible behavior. In the meantime, if you do see violations, you are encouraged to call CUPD if it's on campus or Boulder PD if it's off. Next slide. Lastly, as I had mentioned at the beginning of my slides, we do know that we need to manage this and be prepared for different possible states. So to that end, we've developed a COVID-19 status model to enable notification of the campus community as local conditions changed. These modes will be used to clearly communicate to the campus expectations as the situation changes. The modes that we've identified are remote, which is our current status, limited, which means limited physical presence on campus, which is what we're moving towards over the summer with the return to research, and then expanded, which is the mode we are working towards with fall 2020 hybrid operations. Ultimately, we hope that we will all return to normal operations with full status. Thank you, John. Next slide.
All right.
So we would like to get your feedback. Go ahead, John.
Oh, sorry. At this point, as Dan was introducing, we'd like to get your feedback. So we're going to launch a poll. And based on these broad recommendations and kind of how we're setting up the framework and architecture for us to implement them, how well do they enable strong campus COVID-19 mitigation protocols, training awareness and individual accountability, and our ability to adapt operations based on changing local conditions? So when you're ready, go ahead and fill out those questions, please. Thank you. Just a moment. Okay, thank you all very much. We're going to move into the next section of recommendations, and those are related to academic instruction. Anne, would you like to take it from here?
All right, so with regard to academic instruction, our recommendations are really aimed at reducing population density and intermingling of campus constituents, enabling flexible in-person, high-flex, and remote teaching practices, and also facilitating adaptability to meet individual faculty and student needs. With regard to that high-flex language in point number 2, that refers to hybrid in-person and remote approaches in which a course is taught both in an in-person and remote or online format. And there are variations of that approach as well. Next slide. The recommendations on this slide and the slides following have been shaped by the hundreds of ideas and comments submitted by faculty, staff, students, parents, and alumni over the last couple weeks. So we're really grateful for that input. We plan to begin the semester on August 24th, 2020, as previously planned. We will provide options for faculty to deliver courses in a variety of modalities to meet instructional needs while following health and safety guidelines. We'll be offering some courses in both an in-person and remote or online format, and some courses online only. We hope in this way to provide flexibility so instruction can quickly go remote or online at any time if there is a resurgence of the virus, as well as back to in-person instruction as the risk goes down. We also want to enable students to continue with their coursework if they're under quarantine. And we want our options to reduce the density on campus and facilitate that physical distancing that we'll talk more about in a minute. And we know too that online remote courses enable access to students who are unable to engage in person. So for example, students who are in or who are living with individuals in high-risk groups, and also students who are in areas under travel restrictions. Next slide. With regard in particular to social distancing in classrooms and on campus, in hallways, on walkways, some of the actions that we are looking at to facilitate that physical distancing may include, depending on the course, staggered in-person attendance, limited class size, online lectures with in-person small recitation groups, expanded class sections or schedules, assigned seating, traffic flow direction in labs, classrooms, and hallways, and increased time between classes, for example, to enable physical distancing in hallways. And in combination with other health and safety actions, these types of measures can help us to mitigate the spread of the virus by lowering that density of individuals in classrooms and other academic spaces. Next slide. To facilitate online, hybrid, and in-person instruction, we'll provide faculty and students with enhanced virtual learning support. We'd like to provide an intake mechanism to uniformly identify faculty technology needs with processes to support those needs, to develop additional virtual resources to support faculty teaching and student learning regardless of modality. We'll explore options for making resource-intensive software available to students virtually, and we'll identify IT inequalities along with supporting processes. And what we hope to do is to remove barriers, promote student success, lessen the financial burden on students, and foster inclusive excellence and equity. It's essential that we enable faculty to create high-quality course content regardless of modality, while minimizing risk of exposure. And will also reduce the need for physical access to computing labs to complete coursework and enable students to successfully participate remotely. Next slide. We've also heard from graduate teaching assistants and undergraduate learning assistants and faculty that we need to empower TAs and LAs to support faculty with instruction across multiple teaching modalities as part of, not on top of, TAs and LAs assistantships. We know that TA and LA support can promote undergraduate student success, especially as students and faculty transition to new modalities. And we also recognize that enabling TAs and graduate part-time instructors, or GPTIs, to teach in online, remote, and hybrid formats affords valuable teaching experience for them on the academic job market. Successful delivery of online, remote, and hybrid courses is really a key component to mitigating the risk of COVID-19 by reducing that density on campus. Next slide. For our first-year students, we'd like to provide a first-year academic experience in CU 101 courses for all those first-year students. This will be providing a cohort-based academic experience. Each first-year academic experience would include cohorted academic courses, academic support, and co-curricular experiences by local residential community. And we'll expand CU 101 courses to all first-year students and include modules on COVID-19, mental health awareness, resiliency, inclusivity, and student behavior expectations. The many benefits of these expansions would be improving student learning and achievement in the first year, promoting a sense of belonging and community, fostering inclusive excellence and equity for all of our students, facilitating a successful transition to CU Boulder at a challenging time. And we also note that programs for incoming commuter students, transfer students, and graduate students are being considered as well. The first year academic experience model may limit the spread of the virus by creating hyperlocal campus experiences where students engage in courses and co-curriculars in consistent groups. This can help us to minimize the health risks associated with students taking classes across multiple student groups in multiple campus locations. With regard to an expansion of CU 101 for all first-year students, this would ensure a common first-year student understanding of epidemiology of COVID-19 and ongoing expectations of student behavior concerning coronavirus. Next slide. Well, the previous slides have focused largely on our undergraduate population. We are also committed to supporting graduate student academic success. We want to honor academic year 2021 graduate student teaching percentage levels, despite any needed adjustments to specific graduate teaching assignments. To honor academic year 2021 research assistantship percentage levels dependent on grant funding. Under the oversight of the graduate school, we'll continue to review and adjust graduate school and unit level policies and procedures as needed to ensure graduate student progress through degree. We'll continue to provide graduate student professional development and support services that are tailored to the specific challenges that COVID-19 has posed to graduate students in graduate research and teaching. And we'll also continue the graduate school strategic plan that was launched this last academic year to support graduate students and graduate studies at CU Boulder. This will provide financial stability for graduate students and also foster graduate student success despite the upheavals of COVID-19. Next slide. One recommendation has also been in addition to the regular 16-week semester, also having the option for 2 8-week or 7.5-week sessions. This would provide faculty with flexibility to offer some courses in an 8-week session within the semester as appropriate. Courses taught within these sessions would complete an entire semester's work within the session. And based on course availability, what that means is that students might opt to take 2 or 3 courses within each smaller session. The transition from the first 8-week session to the second might also form a natural break point if at that time the university needs to transition to more limited operations. For faculty teaching in person, this approach could also reduce risk by limiting the amount of time during the semester that a faculty member needs to be physically present on campus. Also, reducing the number of classes that a student takes at a time can limit the risk of virus transmission because of less overall movement on campus. Next slide. All right.
All right, thank you, Anne. So we're ready for round 2 of your feedback. So you see the list of recommendations on the right. So how well do these broad recommendations enable reduced population density and intermingling of campus constituents, flexible in-person high flex and remote teaching practices, and the adaptability to meet individual faculty and student needs? We'll give you a couple of minutes to complete this. Thank you so much. Give it one more minute. Okay, thanks everyone very much. We will move now into our third set of recommendations, and I will hand it back to Anne to talk about resource alignment. Anne?
All right, so for resource alignment, this will include support for student access and health and safety protocols, prioritization of technology and instructional design needs, and the pooling of limited resources and programming to support faculty, staff, and student success. Next slide. We'll need to create an integrated process for prioritizing and purchasing related to COVID-19 needs, including sanitation, protective gear, technology, and staffing costs. Where possible, we'll pool campus resources to engage in bulk buying of protective gear and related COVID-19 supplies. And what we want to do is enable cost and timing efficiencies and ensure campus-wide access to the necessary supplies to ensure that we are as COVID-19 ready as possible. Next slide. With regard to technology and instructional design needs, we'll develop a process to prioritize instructional software and hardware needs. We'll work with units to determine prioritization of courses needing software, hardware, and/or instructional design support. And this will enable our campus to optimize the hybrid remote online teaching in support of student success. Next slide. We are also proposing a 0% tuition increase for incoming and returning students, and that is pending approval from university leadership. And to enable a residential academic experience for all first-year students in residence halls, we're proposing waiving all RAP fees, residential academic program fees, in the coming academic years. This will support students and their families financially at a very difficult time. And CU Boulder also provides, we note, a 4-year tuition guarantee for undergraduates that provides certainty for incoming students and families that their tuition will not go up. Next slide.
Okay, last round of questions. So broad recommendations related to resource alignment. How well do they support student access and health and safety protocols, the prioritization of technology and instructional design needs, and the pooling of limited resources in support of faculty, staff, and student success? We'll give you a minute for this one as well, and then we'll move on with some question and answer. Thank you. Just another minute. All right. So moving into Q&A. I thought I would start with a question about the funding for RAPs. So how are you funding RAPs if you're eliminating their fees? So I'm wondering, Mary or Catherine, if you want to take that one.
So why don't I start and then let Ann chime in on the budgetary part? I think, again, this is a really key thing for this coming year. We're trying to recruit incoming first-year students. That's number one. Number two, we're trying to provide an equitable experience for all our incoming first-year students. Currently, we have about 50% of students able to come into a RAP and pay a RAP fee. What this will do is eliminate the RAP fee for this year, and all students will be not in a RAP, but in a structure we're calling a first-year academic experience, and can talk about the budgetary consequences.
So as we engage in that resource alignment for academic year 2021, and we ensure that we have the resources available to cover things like that protective equipment, health and safety, all of those aspects. Another key part of that is making sure that we have our resources aligned to support an expansion that enables a first-year academic experience for all of our first-year students.
All right, thank you both. How will we create all of these schedules that allow distancing, both for classroom scheduling and in-person events? That sounds like it might be a Catherine Eggert question.
Yeah, so this will be a complex and huge project. If we extend our classes over much more of the day than we typically use, this can be done. So currently, almost all of our classes are scheduled between 9:30 or 9 a.m. and 2 or 3 p.m. That's good, but it leaves vast amounts of our classroom space unused for most of the day. So if we add more passing time between class periods, if we create more sections, we will need to use some of that extra time in the day. However, it's also important to note that if classes are taught remotely or online, they will free up classroom space. So I know that students who are already enrolled are worried that their schedules are going to change. We will be working on the procedure for that. I can't tell you exactly what it's going to be, but we will try to use those extra times for classes that aren't currently scheduled.
Great, thank you. Next question, how will campus administration and units allow faculty and staff to determine if they will teach or work on campus versus remote based on their individual health concerns or needs? Can I choose if I teach or work remotely? And what kind of guidance will be given to unit leaders regarding this? I'm wondering, Dan, if you want to maybe start with some of the return to research guidance, maybe as an initial, and then Michelle, I wonder if you have thoughts as well.
Yeah, so I can start. I think one thing to note is, for employees, we will follow the same approach we had in the spring for, where we would encourage, we worked with, employee relations, work with supervisors and individual employees to identify what the challenges were and what the possible solutions are to those, and then working through that relationship. So I expect that we'll use that same approach in the fall.
Thanks, Dan. Michelle, do you have anything you'd like to add?
Yeah, I can address the faculty portion of the question. I think that's a concern that many faculty especially have around what kind of choice and flexibility faculty members are going to have in terms of whether they teach remotely, fully, or online, or in some hybrid in-person capacity. And I think with our guidelines, we focus on choice and flexibility. We focus on academic units, making those kinds of detailed decisions in a collaborative fashion. So as an individual faculty member, for example, you would be working with your department chair and or associate deans and deans to make the best decisions both for health and safety, which are the #1 considerations, and also for the unit and the course delivery needs. So hopefully that all will work out in the way best for students and for faculty.
Thank you, Michelle. Next question. Is everyone going to be taking that Skillsoft training?
So certainly anyone who will be working, any employee, faculty, or staff or student employees who will be physically working on campus will need to take the training. It will be available to any employee by the end of the week.
Great, thanks, Dan. Sounds like you have the broad plan worked out. When are we going to know the specific details? Anne and Dan, do you want to help me out on this one? I think we want to have them as rapidly as we can as well. I think we're being thoughtful and taking a rapid iteration approach to this so that we can make sure to the maximum degree possible that we are in fact on the right track and that we won't have to backtrack as much as we'll be tweaking, iterating, and fine-tuning specific logistical details that you all are doing an amazing job of flagging for us as we move into this. The questions you're submitting, the ideas are all vital to our ability to get this right as we move forward, and we know you want those answers rapidly. So I know we're working as rapidly as we can to provide those. Weeks, not months, for sure. Anne, you want to add to that?
I just second everything you said, that we appreciate your questions and thoughts. Keep them coming. Many details or things that as part of our planning efforts, we certainly are working on cataloging for the implementation process, so on and so forth. There are many other details that will continue to emerge during this highly dynamic and iterative process.
Thank you.
And just a quick follow on, I think it's important to note that, throughout all this iterative process, there are other groups, in addition to all the feedback we've been receiving from the campus, that there are other groups that as we get more clarity, they're working on things, whether that's going out and acquiring the materials we anticipate we need. There's a group working to understand what we'll need to do to bring back cultural events in the libraries on campus, as well as I had alluded to, what do we need to do to return research during the fall? Or sorry, next month.
Next month for research. Will the newly admitted students be given hybrid options for the upcoming fall semester, such as starting the semester maybe a month late due to visa issues, potentially? Mary or Catherine, do you have thoughts on that question?
So I can address the international students briefly because I'm in touch with Diana Salazar, who runs International Student and Scholar Services. We are, of course, very concerned about international students, not just undergraduate, but graduate students and scholars, and the ability to get visas. There is no indication, though, that a month would be sufficient time for a student to get a visa and to be able to actually come to campus. So I think at this point, really what we may be thinking is a spring start, at least for undergrads. That'd be first years primarily, and transfer students, not partway through the fall.
Thank you, Mary. How are we going to have support in enforcing social distancing and facial covering guidelines? Dan, that sounds like that might be a question for you.
So, the first part of that is just recognizing that you know, we do need to have individual responsibility for social distancing. And so a key component of that will be training. And then using, you know, some of the monitoring that I discussed earlier. You know, we're hoping to be able to use that to develop heat maps to get a sense of, you know, an early warning mechanism to see, are we having challenges with social distancing? And then, as I mentioned, we're working with our partners in student affairs, as well as with the city, to look at additional mechanisms we can put in place. While it's not a law enforcement issue, it's more a public health issue. There's some looking at other examples where they've paired individuals to go out with law enforcement to provide additional guidance. That seems to be effective.
Thank you, Dan. Next question. Am I going to have to plan an in-person, hybrid, and online version of every course I offer in the fall, or can I choose? Catherine, would you like to try that one?
Yes, so it's important that every unit, every department, every program work together as a community on this. So it's the same process as we design every time we design a semester's worth of course scheduling. People have their preferences for what they teach, but there are also things that the department needs to have taught. And for that reason, it's better to think of this as a shared project that also includes not just tenured and tenure track faculty, but all ranks of faculty and lecturers and TAs and GPTIs working together in concert to make sure that special needs are accommodated, while at the same time, the primary goal of offering our students the courses they need is met.
Thank you, Catherine. We're going to extend for just a few more minutes to take a couple of more questions. Do want to reiterate that all of your questions, which are amazing, are going to be captured, and we will be utilizing those as we work toward iterating our recommendations, delivering our report, and then leveraging those for those specific implementation details that we've been discussing. So thank you all for providing them, and we will continue to monitor and utilize those to inform our efforts. So with that, this one came up. How can we plan to be open when the Cal State system and some others have announced they will be remote? Anne, do you want to take a stab at that one as an initial response, and then others can weigh in?
Yeah, thank you. As part of our plan, you know, we really understand the need to be ready to go fully remote at any time. And we'll really be addressing needs related to that contingency as part of our recommendations that we'll be making to leadership. It is indeed a dynamic and unique situation that universities across the nation are engaged in. And as part of our plan, you know, we will be prepared to go fully remote at any time if we need to do that.
Thank you. What happens if you have an outbreak in a residence hall? Dan, would you like to field that one?
Sure. Our first goal is to avoid an outbreak in the residence hall. The reason why we're developing testing plans and rapid response teams is so that if there is someone who does test positive, for example, in the residence hall, then we can very quickly reach out, identify those who they were in contact with, and make sure that, you know, those who are sick or have symptoms, that, you know, we have those individuals in isolation, and then we have the capacity for those who may have been near that individual to go into quarantine. So that's the first goal. We want to avoid having an outbreak in a residence hall, and so having those teams It's our belief that that will help avoid that. And then certainly to Anne's prior point, certainly, you know, part of the reason why we have built into the plans the capability to step back into a remote is if, for whatever reason, whether it's within the city, there's a return to community spread or an outbreak in a residence hall, we have the flexibility to respond to that.
Thank you, Dan. We'll take a couple more. How will the university care for employees that have to balance childcare and work if K through 12 schools are remote and we are not? Anne, do you want to take a go at that question?
Yeah, we are actively monitoring school districts' plans, and we are taking those plans into account as we move forward with our own fall planning. We do recognize that our faculty, our staff, our student parents had to pivot really quickly this spring, not only with regard to their own teaching and learning and work, but also as parents with regard to their children's remote learning. And so we are really taking that into consideration as we do our fall planning.
Thank you, Anne. The final question will be, and again, we will be collecting all of these questions and leveraging them in our work moving forward. So thank you all once again. Please keep them coming. Will faculty and students who are engaged in in-person learning be required to wear face masks while teaching and learning? Dan, do you want to take that one?
Yeah, I mean, presently our plan is that that would be a requirement. Short answer.
Yep. Short can sometimes be very clear. So thank you. All right, well, thanks everyone. Aaron, at this point, I'll pitch it over to you to kind of close things out. And I just do want to remind everyone, we will be placing these slides on our coronavirus website. We'll be publishing a wrap-up article today in CU Boulder Today as well to share the opportunity to provide feedback with the broader campus community. We're grateful to you for your time and your participation, and eager to work with you as we continue developing the plans moving forward. Aaron, do you want to take it from here?
All right, thank you, John. I'd like to thank all of our attendees for joining us today and for the great questions. We will be wrapping up our seminar. And at this time, I'm going to go ahead and end the session and thank everybody for their time.
Thank you.